Hello solar gaming enthusiasts, my name is AlzaboHD. In today's challenge video, we will seek to survive against unlimited plague and pestilence by praising the sun and reviving the rarest religion in CK3. In our timeline, the Zune died in obscurity, but through the power of solar Sharia, we can reclaim both Zunism and the Zunbil dynasty by playing the upcoming Legends of the Dead DLC and setting the Black Death to maximum so it isn't too easy. But before we can get started, I'd like to give a special thanks to Paradox Interactive, who are the sponsor of today's video. Our story starts in 867 CE as Vali Salih Kure Al-Hujr, a 42-year-old count and one of the last Zunbil leaders in what was once a powerful vitamin D dynasty. His story will be played with unlimited Black Deaths and Doomsday Plague frequencies to keep things spicy, and with Iron Man mode active, it's time to shine. Salih is a diligent, honest, and compassionate Jolly Roger who can barely read or write, but his body is whole and his health is hardy. Slinging swords was not his only secret, as he also believed in Zune, but to take his faith out of the shadows, he would need piety and thus opted for study in theology. Salih's Safarid sovereign was Sunni, and he had to tread carefully by guarding his identity, though his ancestral dynasty had 5 other living members just in case. As an unmarried bachelor, Salih married a modest maiden with a genius disposition to serve as his beard and shield, and after hiring men-at-arms, sought to strong-arm his nephew and neighbor by declaring war on the county of Bost. Salih's soldiers made short work of his family's forces and brought Bost back into the fold, ultimately opting to move his realm capital downstream. To his east, the Shah of Shahi was at war with the Raja of Abari, and sensing an opportunity, our valley sounded the drums of war yet again. But he got mail, specifically of the dark variety that threatened to expose his faith in Zune unless he obeyed the Taharid Amir. Salih was sick of living in the shadows and proclaimed his true faith by bringing glory to Zune at the risk of his own life and liberty. Back on the battle lines, Zabulistan was occupied and the invaders driven from the barony of Bost. The war was finally over. Salih became head of the Afghani people, and somehow he succeeded in spreading his seed and siring a daughter. The first of many plagues had now made its way into the lands of our liege, and the Sultan himself was downed with the sickness, leaving his infant in charge of the emirate. Sensing opportunity, Salih held the child at bow point and demanded liberty, and surprisingly this was granted in 874 AD. With the power of golden obligations, our valley founded the Duchy of Zabulistan and was now the Shah of the first solar sheikhdom in modern history. Shah Salih immediately exploited his new position by fleecing his vassals to fund plague hospitals within the capital. His truce with the Safarids would soon expire, so Salih married off his firstborn daughter to a nudist Indian and declared war for the Shahdom of Sistan, leveraging his naked son-in-law for an armed alliance. These bare-chested brethren proved pivotal in the conflict by saving our capital, and with their capital captured, our duchy had doubled in size. Salih's wife was 45, had procured only daughters, and her oven was offline, so it was time to trade her in for a younger model that could produce him a Zumbilineal son and heir. And speaking of son, our Zunist holy sites were easily within reach, so the one-province county of Nishapur was invaded and liquidated as our second sacred temple. Kabuli heathens of course objected, but they were beaten back in our mountain pass. During our defensive struggle, a dangerous plague spawned within our Shahdom, this time named after the Shah himself. Our capital and court thus entered isolation while the plague devastated the western portions of our nation. Salih's wife was the first to succumb to the blight, so he had his physician cut off her face, which didn't work. Our Shah would have to shop for a third bride inside the castle walls, but she too took to the measles, and drastic measures meant she took a chisel to her shizzle. The Shah was running out of in-home replacements and hoped Olania would suffice, but she too tested positive, and when given the choice, chose to take her chances without surgery. Her recovery meant that she could keep her head, but Salih's daughter died and he fell into a masochistic mental break. The worst had come to pass, and his fourth wife with an actual face gave birth to Salih's son and heir, Xwededad I. Simultaneously, the holdings of Herat were taken to unite our clan contiguously, but this exertion plunged our protagonist into infirmity as he fought to maintain control over his faculties. At least he could still drink and party despite the plight of his people under yet another lockdown, but Salih cared only about Zune. Let them eat plague, and we'll launch a holy war to claim the sacred site of Multan. The sun shone bright upon our warriors of light, and the emirate was ignited in its entirety, netting Salih his divine right and maximum legitimacy. With the third holy holding of Zune in his hands, our infirm old man was carried to India on a pilgrimage and procured piety and pilgrim status at the Solar Temple of Multan. Zune had chosen our sovereign as his temporal champion, and Salih set out to become the custodian of the rising sun and embraced our first holy legend. Despite his infirmity, he was 69 and feeling fine, and after routing separatist rebels, opted to sentence the traitors to a sun trial. They must have applied SPF 50 because none of the criminals caught skin cancer, so they were free to leave. But not everything was lost, as now that our holy custodian oversaw 3 holy sites, he could reform Zunism from a cosmic cult into an organized religion. Zunism was thus reorganized by adding the pursuit of power tenet, allowed women equality, pivoted towards fundamentalism, and enshrined our leader as a temporal head of faith and chosen of Zune. This religious reformation now meant that Salih held a sacred duty as the sun's representative on Earth, and it was beyond time to bring down cosmic radiation on every surrounding nation. But our monarch was aging, infirm, and obsessed with his own mortality, and while Bakar was broken, he met God within the fog of war. Back on Earth, these newly conquered lands were donated to the Zunbil dynasty, and our leather-bound liege received the epic Zunbil Namakaran in honor of his life's work. He was worthy of his status as a living legend, and at the turn of the 10th century reforged his realm by founding the Kingdom of Zabulistan. This was a time of celebration as our nation and king survived in the face of age, infirmity, separatists, and unending plagues. Zabulistan was thus renamed into the Kingdom of Zun with a color befitting the light of our Lord, and the Zunbil dynasty was renamed to reflect their divinity. We'd finally get some tendies, and our Khalifa's legend was written in the sands, while war was waged on the Turkic tribes down under. Their capital was quickly captured, but someone was trying to murder our elderly autarch. Thank Zune that Salih's physician, Athoncion, arrived in the nick of time to save his Shah's life, and the two became soulmates as the light of the sun judges no one. Unfortunately for Salih, this love wouldn't last long as his health was on life alert, and his dying wish was to merge his Afghanis with Punjabis to form the syncretic Zunbali culture. The Shah died doing what he loved, slaughtering civilians, and passed in 904 AD at the age of 80, leaving the Sun Kingdom in the hands of the lazy, incompetent, and sickly teenage son, Xwededad I. The new Shah tested positive with the plague du jour, but when he wasn't coughing in people's faces, he was an honest, fair, and lazy competent capitalist. Xwededad finished what his dad had started and recovered his health, but at his father's funeral he made a fool of himself and felt that he'd live his life in the shadow of Shah Salih. His first act as ruler would be to increase crown authority, which he used to revoke his cousin's castle, but his insecurities plagued him, and he felt like an abject failure. Not even Nishapur's annexation could brighten his spirits, so Xwededad became an alcoholic and slapped up his sister. He felt better already, but his sister sought a second round and challenged our Sun King to a duel to the death to determine the leadership of the Zunbil dynasty. How can she slap? It's time for our king to attack, and Salih's firstborn daughter Sayan was now 6 feet under. The stress of killing his own sister drove our Shah deeper into the bottle, and after years of liquid therapy, he succumbed to lunacy and was ready to forge his own drunken destiny. Xwededad had a fever, and the only cure was more warbel, so he set out his sunlit soldiers to liberate and liquidate the minions of darkness. We'd slide to the west, slide to the right, and cha-cha real good, composing a song worthy of Zun's name. As light illuminated more and more lands, they were in turn peopled with Zunbil dynasty hands, as a little nepotism never hurt anyone. Unfortunately, the son of the sovereign passed in 933 AD, and given Xwededad's lunacy, he had the child corpse stuffed and seated in his living room. Plague had once again found its way into our polity, and Firhan was next to fall as province development dived into oblivion. X-Man ate himself into obesity while his people perished from pestilence, but he did have some good news. His court chronicler stated he could become a dragon slayer, and after grabbing Gandhara, our rotund hero promoted this fiction by setting out to accomplish a golden legend. When the court chronic approached again to implore him to travel to the kingdom of Bumthang, he knew what he must now do. Shah Xwededad would travel across the land, searching far and wide for the barony of Bumthang, his goal to be the best that no one ever was. He spent 9 months on the road and ran into grotesque creatures before arriving in the bodacious barony, which turned out to be a massive disappointment. He was hosted by the Bumthangese, but decided it was better to batter them with force, ultimately taking his bum brother Nagodrap Chakar as his personal champion. The boys were back in town at Bast, and our liege's legend was growing in pace with his diabetes. On the battlefield, the kingdom of Zun was also expanding to the west and to the east, and Xwededad decided to invade the kingdom of Pratihara in 943 to cast light upon the Punjabis. These Pratiharans were utterly pradeshed, and Delhi was first on the menu, though battles raged within and without our lands. Measles, named in honor of our sizable sovereign, spawned from soldiers slain in battle, and with a final blow in the Battle of Hisar, northern India was conquered in its entirety. But plague had found its way into the crown capital of our kingdom, and our sovereign had smallpox, so naturally our physician cut his face off, which saved his life at the cost of disfigurement. With the Zun family dying in mass, our patriarch opted to isolate the court and wash his hands, which succeeded in slaying the sickness. His legend, once that of a dragon-born, was now as obese as his belly, and he became the large beast slayer and formed the kingdoms of Kabulistan and Rajputana. These 3 kingdoms meant that our monarch could now forge an empire-level title, and the power of Zun reigned supreme. The sun never sets over the Zumbali Empire, and celebrations soon swept across our sprawling nation. By 948 AD, the Empire of the Sun is the preeminent polity of Persia and South Asia, and spans from the Caspian to the Indian Ocean. The Zunist religion was once extinct, but is now believed in by a majority of our citizens, and is itself the 10th largest faith of the medieval world. Afghan culture has been entirely replaced by syncretic Zunbalis, while Miasma and Malays have depopulated and destroyed the majority of our municipalities, and has even ripped the face off of our solar sovereign. Our population has halved every other decade, and our provincial development is decimated, but this isn't unique to Zun, as every nation under the sun has suffered from waves of pestilence and plague. High Priest Xwededad of the Zun Grand Clan is 63 and feeling fine, and rules from the Grand Temple of Boast. His court is the second most sublime of all time, and boasts relics from across the ancient world. Our royal dynasty and Lords of Light are reputable, with over 90 living members, and every single holding of our nation is owned directly by Zunism of the ruling family. Legality and culpability are judged entirely by melanoma and solar sharia, so be sure to hire a lawyer if you're ever sent on sun trial. If you'd like to see more vitamin D, there's yet another Zunist video on AlzaboHD, dating back to when CK3 was first released. Back then it was almost impossible to convert to the religion without a massive amount of cheese, so be sure to wear some sunscreen before clicking the card at the top of your screen. If you've liked what you see and want to support AlzaboHD for free, be sure to drop a comment, like the video, and subscribe for more strategy gaming content. This video was made in partnership with Paradox Interactive, so check out the Legends of the Dead DLC to see if you can survive the Dancing Plague. More content is on the way this month, and Afghan you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon or by becoming a YouTube channel member so that your name may live on as a credit legend.